Eventing is for me the most rewarding and challenging equestrian sport. It includes a cross-country course, dressage and show jumping. In this programme, I'm going to demonstrate my methods of achieving a winning partnership between horse and rider. I've come to the Gleneagles Mark Phillips Equestrian Centre in Perthshire, undoubtedly one of the finest equestrian centres in the world. The facilities here are really superb. This whole establishment is purpose-built to provide the sort of facility that any rider would find both exciting and rewarding. These indoor stables are beautifully designed. Not only are they well ventilated and comfortable for the horses, they're also very safe and make for efficient stable management. Come on, chap. Boy. Over, old boy. Over. Good boy. One of the most difficult points about eventing is choosing the correct horse. There's no specific type of horse that's going to make a good event horse, but my preference would always be for the thoroughbred horse, or perhaps a horse with a little bit pony or Irish draft breeding in it. So Watty here, although he's got pony breeding in him, he's probably not the ideal type to go out and buy for a 3-day event horse. But what I particularly like about him is his enormous character. He's got a very bold, honest head, very nice expression, and a bright and alert eye. He's very over at the knee, which is a very good thing for an event horse, as it puts less stress onto the forelegs and onto the tendons when they're galloping cross-country. Perhaps a little bit weak behind the saddle, to be critical, but that's surely compensated by this enormous hind quarter and very strong hind leg. That's probably what makes this horse such a brilliant event horse. Hi. Thank you. What I particularly like about this Cliff Barnsby dressage saddle is that it's so beautifully made with lovely leather, and it keeps the rider in exactly the right position for doing dressage. Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Welcome. Come on, Woody. Whatever standard of riding you have reached, it's important to have someone on the ground to help you with what you're doing. Today we're lucky enough to have my dressage trainer, Barbara Slane-Fleming, with us. And whilst I'm warming up Sir Watty, Barbara will explain some finer points about dressage. I'll get you to... Boy. Thank you. Welcome.
While Ian is just warming Watty up, I'd like to just explain a little bit about the idea of dressage, what it's for, and what the judges are looking for. First of all, we want the horse to be absolutely obedient. We want him to go in a gymnastic, supple way. when he's walking round like that, we want to see that the paces are completely correct, that the walk is exactly 4 time, and that the horse is striding really forward. Now at this stage, he's not asking the horse very much, he's merely saying to him, relax, just like a gymnast would be when a gymnast would be warming up. The movements that we put into dressage tests are simply to show that the horse is obedient, that he is supple, and particularly with event horses, it's quite obvious that if he stops, goes, turns, and is really thoroughly obedient, that what he does across country will be very much more athletic and easy to control. Now what he's doing now is allowing him to stretch down a little bit so that the horse can relax the muscles of his back and really begin to work through the whole body. He's not asking for impulsion, he's merely asking for obedience and suppleness. He has to think about the rein contact. He has to think that the horse is accepting the bit. That means to say that whatever he does with the reins, that the horse will stretch down and look for the bit, and that the reins appear all the time like a pair of sticks. And as you can see, when he offers him the rein, what he stretches down. Now, Ian himself has to feel that the weight in both reins is the same. Go on into canter. Some horses relax better in trot, some in canter, but when you are warming up, and this applies just as much before you do the work as before a dressage test, obviously you are going to not both, but walk, trot and canter. And again you can see Ian is sitting very light off Watty's back, not as he would do in a dressage test, to allow him to work through his back, to allow the back muscles to swing. He's cantered on the left rein, so I expect we shall now see him change the rein and probably canter on the right rein. But in the meantime, he's asked him to stretch down again in trot. He's going to walk. Have a little rest, pat him. Patting the horse as well as saying thank you, in fact relaxes the horse as much as it actually relaxes the rider. The fact of patting makes you feel good towards the horse. Right, so now he's on the right rein. The horse must be absolutely even both ways. No human being is exactly the same both sides. But through the training, we have to think about making the horse even on both reins. This horse has a very good trot, all 4 legs coming clearly off the ground, the horse trotting exactly in diagonals, and he has a very good hind leg action in the trot. Hind leg comes very well underneath the body. Ian was talking about his conformation earlier and his very powerful quarters. That has been a great help jumping, but almost when he was younger, a difficulty over the dressage because the engine, which is the hindquarters, was almost too powerful for the front. But now he's grown up and he's come into a more advanced way of going. The engine is now a very good thing. He's sitting now, seeing whether the back is relaxed enough to accept his weight, and if it wasn't, then he would go rising again, which he now has done. If you start to sit and the back is still very stiff, the horse will then tighten against you and you won't get a good ride. Rising trot is a very important part of the training. This is a very nice trot. The horse is very relaxed and looks very supple and looks easy to ride. You can see very clearly in canter the terrific power of his hindquarters. I would like that canter a little bit stronger. That's better. It's a little bit restricted just then. It wants to look easy and fluent and flowing. As far as Ian is concerned, I have to look and see whether he's sitting straight, that he's absolutely square with the horse, that the legs are a pair, not one looking longer than the other, and that the hands are a pair, that they're both the same height and both the same length. I mean, that sounds rather odd. Not one in front of the other. It's very difficult for the rider themselves to tell whether they are sitting straight. They feel straight when they're crooked, and when you make them straight, then they feel even crookeder. He's doing a little bit of shoulder in. Now in shoulder in, would you like to do that once again, Ian?
Yeah.
Shoulder in, the horse is bent round the rider's inside leg. The inside leg says to the horse, bend in the ribs and bring your inside hind leg more underneath you. The outside leg says don't swing the quarters out. The inside rein, which is very, very little, asks for a little bend, and the outside rein makes sure he doesn't gain ground forwards or bend his neck too much. Those were nice steps. Maybe the trot's a fraction hurried. That's better. Good. Very nice now. And a good outline. Shoulder into the right. Took a little time to get into it. Exactly on 3 tracks. That means to say the horse's inside hind leg is stepping into the exact track of his outside front leg. And shoulder in again. And you can see Ian sitting perfectly square, not sliding to the outside as so often happens, or collapsing to the inside. Okay, and that looks about right. I think he's ready to do a test now. Good. Very good. That was good work. Right, we're now going to try some movements from the test. What has been up a very short time, so we shall do very little. We start off by doing some 10-meter circles, and the idea of them is to get him supple, bending round the rider's inside leg. So when he is on the right rein, when he starts to make a 10-meter circle, he will use the inside leg to keep the horse going forward, to bend him. With the inside rein, he indicates the bend of the circle, and with the outside leg, he prevents him falling out. That was a very nice circle, very relaxed, nice, easy trot. At this stage, we don't want to think about impulsion in the horse. He's only been up, as I said, a short time. What we want to get him is relaxed and supple. Now he's going to do some right half pass. So he bends the horse to the right with the right rein. He bends him round his right leg, and with his left leg he pushes him over. It's very important that he sits to the right when he's doing this movement. Allows him to stretch down a little bit, because he did that nicely. Goes on to the left rein, and we shall do the same thing on the left rein. You see Ian is now in sitting trot. And that's a very nice outline. Hands a pair, the rider sitting well, the horse going nicely. So he makes a circle to the left, and the aids are exactly reversed. Bends him round the left leg, keeping exactly the same rhythm. You can see the trot is a little bit slow for what it would be in a test. And he's going to do some left half pass in a moment. Another circle. Has to be careful on this rein that the horse doesn't slide out a little bit to the right. A few steps of shoulder in before the left half pass. And there's perhaps a little bit much bend in the neck, and he's tilting his head slightly. So we'll do that again. He tried to put his quarters in when he started. Ian could be sitting perhaps a little bit more to the left. And you can see that the quarters reach the centre line before the front legs, which is incorrect. So now we must get it better. Won't ask so much bend in the neck this time. Makes a circle first, because as he started, the horse thought, oh, I'm going to shorten and bend my neck too much. So he starts off again. And that's much better beginning, much better steps. But obviously before he does a competition, we need to do a little bit more work on that. Right, he allows him to stretch down a little bit, because he's done it quite nicely, but we must do it just once more, see that it's a little bit better, try and correct this tilting head. So that's much better beginning. And good, nice steps, a little bit of wavering in the middle, but quite nice. And a nice transition to walk. Allows him to stretch. This horse has a very correct walk. He doesn't make the longest strides in the world, but he has a very correct walk. Ian sits very relaxed, because in a test, or when he's tense, as he is a little bit today, he can shorten the walk, and it isn't always so good. So he jogged a little bit there. So he's going to pick him up and ask for canter. By picking him up, I mean takes a contact with the reins, puts his legs on, and the horse was disobedient. He came above the bit, so we have to go back and do that again. Very important, if the horse makes a mistake, that it gets an immediate correction. Otherwise, it has no idea what is good and what is bad. So he comes round again, picks him up, makes him a little bit rounder, puts him a little bit more on the bit, keeps his legs securely on, and says, you stay round, and very good transition. 10-metre circle in canter. Aids are exactly the same as they are for the circles in trot, and he's now going to do some counter canter. So he makes one loop in true canter. Now he has to keep the horse bent to the right, with his weight to the right, horse bent over the leading leg, mustn't change legs, was a stride in the middle, where the horse came up. Now we're on the other leg, going to do exactly the same thing on the other rein, some counter-canter. Makes a circle first, make sure the horse is bending, listening, round his inside leg. Very nice outline, you see the hands are level. Now you need to see that the canter remains exactly the same, the horse remains exactly the same. Although he's cantering in the opposite direction, he's still on the inside leg. And that was extremely nice. Very good rhythm, very relaxed, and a nice bend. Just a little trip there. It doesn't matter. Canters a nice circle. You look at Ian's hands, exactly a pair. Whole thing very relaxed and easy, coming to the end now, and very good. Very important that you finish up doing something that is easy for the horse and that you allow him to relax. Now that's quite enough for him today. He hasn't been up a long time, and very pleased with the work that he's done.
I am now arriving at Hooker Hall Horse Trials, where all our practice is put to the test. My working in time before a test is never more than 15 to 20 minutes. The horse already knows the movements required of him, so this time is spent keeping the horse relaxed and supple. To avoid a fresh horse becoming tense, I normally have taken him for an hour's hack earlier in the day. Here Wat is relaxed, yet alert and attentive, concentrating on me and ignoring the obvious distractions of the crowd.
Now this is 4 weeks later, so we hope the work that we did originally will have all come to fruition, and we're now going to get a very good test. He looks very relaxed. It looks as if it's a good outline, good in the hand, and he's just waiting now for the horn to go and to start off. Comes in canter. So the important thing now is that he comes in perfectly straight. He needs to turn wide enough so that he can come in straight. Mistake so many people make is to turn too sharply, and then they're not straight. So that's good. Very straight, nice outline, very relaxed, rather an abrupt transition, but a very good hold. Horse absolutely square and on the bit and listening. Moves off in trot, working trot. The whole of this test is working trot or medium or extended. There's no collection in it at all. Now he has to make a transition into medium trot, which is now. Very good transition, very level rhythm. A medium trot is simply longer steps, but they mustn't be fully extended. They must be round and a good rhythm, and the horse must lengthen his outline sufficiently for the steps to be long enough. So that was very nice steps and a very good transition back in exactly the same rhythm. Comes down the center line. He's now going to make one of these 10-meter circles we've been practicing before. And you can see clearly there the aids. And very nice steps, again this level rhythm. And now left half pass, he's moving away from us and crossing over his front legs and hind legs and arrives exactly at the track parallel. And those were very nice steps. Now he makes a transition to halt, which is rather abrupt, and in fact he makes a step back. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was actually one step too many. He came slightly above the bit, but the actual quality of the steps were good. But there was some resistance. Now the medium trot again. Perhaps a little bit hurried on this rein, not quite so good as the other rein, but still very good in the hand. That means to say the horse is taking a good contact down the rein. Mouth is quiet, and slightly losing impulsion in the transition back. So that wasn't such a good medium trot as the other way. Now he has to repeat the same thing on this rein, a little circle, and then half pass to the right. Slowed down a tiny bit. You can see clearly there the bend through the horse, and he's stepping towards the camera, and he has to arrive at parallel on the track. That was quite good. Now again he makes transition to halt, and again the hind leg's not quite still, almost stepping back. But a nice transition to trot. Now extended trot rising. Now the horse must make the longest steps of which he's capable. Watch the horse's hind legs. They're extremely good. You must have the feeling that the cannon bone, that's the lower part of the leg, of the hind legs and the front legs must be parallel. So often you see the hind legs trailing out behind. This is sitting trot, and again, extremely good steps. Here he makes a transition to walk. Now, when Watty is very fresh, this can be a very tense moment in the test because he knows he's going to canter. These horses know this test very well over a period of years. And if they are very tense, they can easily make short steps and try and jog. So it's very important that the rider sits very relaxed, allows the horse to stretch, and allows him to make the longest steps that he is capable of making. And those are nice steps. He looks relaxed, doesn't look as if he's going to anticipate. Now he picks up the reins, ready for the canter. Slides his outside leg back, and a very nice transition to canter. Horse must stay bent round the whole line of the circle. Mustn't have more bend in the neck than he has in the rest of the body. Counter canter now. Seeing this from a different angle than we saw it before, so that's quite interesting. Little bit tilting his head, but nice steps. Looks easy, doesn't look as if he's tensing or thinking about changing. It's a very good obedience exercise, that. Extended canter, big long steps without hurrying, and a good transition back into trot. This time he canters from trot, which is a good deal easier, but again the little circle. He fell out a little bit there on the circle. As we know, he bends a little bit too much to the left sometimes. It's easy for him to slide out through the right shoulder. Counter canter on this rein. And looks easy. Again, nice steps. Now he's going to do another extended canter. Very often when horses are very fresh, they mess about during this and change legs. So it's important that you see that they don't. It is a valuable training exercise, obedience exercise. It's just about to finish, canter down the centre line. Comes rather above the bit in the transition to canter, but it's very straight. And halt not as good as the halt when he came in. So obviously we need to do a little bit more work on the halts before we do another test. Otherwise, very pleased with the test. Thought it was excellent. Horse stayed very calm, on the bit, very obedient, very good rhythm, and altogether very pleasing. I'm sure Ian will be pleased with that test.
Show jumping is for me a natural progression from the dressage we've just been doing. We have two young riders here to help us with the gymnastic exercises. On my left, we have Charlotte Nichol riding her 8-year-old intermediate horse, Kerry. And on the right, we have Daniel Hughes riding his 6-year-old novice mare, Cleopatra. If you just go and work in, please. The working in process, whether it's for dressage or for show jumping, is exactly the same, in that we want the horses to work long and stretch low and start to supple up and use every part of their body so that they're ready to work in jumping, using themselves properly. If you have a canter when you're ready. The gymnastic exercises we're about to do are where the horses learn, whatever standard they're at, they learn how to look after themselves and the riders when it comes to jumping a course of show jumps, or indeed when it comes to riding cross country. This is where they learn, and this is where they have to always go back to improving their style and technique over jumps. Before we go on to jump, it's important that the horses are working soft, they're relaxed, they're working forward, and they're obedient and listening to the riders. When you're ready, just come over the cross pole. In trot. Good. Once more in trot, Charlotte. Once more in trot. Okay. When you're ready, Charlotte, and canter. Okay, a little bit flat and fast. A little bit more upright yourself on the approach. Okay. And then canter again through the bounce. Good. That was a better speed. Okay. Just walk a minute and I'll change it. And the same again in canter. Keep that right leg on. Okay, that was much straighter, Charlotte. He was tending to drift a little bit to the right, but you had him much straighter there. So you want to remember not to let him drift right. Think about keeping the right leg a little bit stronger so that he's staying straighter. Once more. Okay, good. We'll make this fence a square parallel now. Okay, so when you're ready. There's a bit of rider error there. You saw a long stride and you fired him, Charlotte. If you do that show jumping, you're bound to knock the fence down. If not the fence you're approaching, then the next one. And Daniel, you've done exactly the same. Both of you just fired the horses, suddenly thought the exercise was getting a little bit more difficult, and you didn't give the horses time to think about the jump. Good. Much better. And because you had a better approach, you had the back end under him more, he was able to snap up in front much sharper, Charlotte. Okay, good. Remember to keep changing the rein on the approach. And the same again, down the line. Remember, in the non-jumping stride in the exercise, think about sitting up a little bit more so that you're not pushing the horses on the forehand. You're giving them a chance to use their back quarters. Good. Okay. Now that happened, Daniel, because you started firing her again. You didn't really give her time on the approach, and you were too quick through the exercise yourself. You were actually ahead of her movements. Didn't give her time to land and pick up again. You were actually pushing her through the line too much. It's the horse's problem, not yours. And walk, Charlotte. And take your time. Yes, lovely. Give her a pat. The difference was because you rode quieter and you sat nice and soft. You didn't hassle the horse in any way. So the horse said, thank you very much. I can help myself through the line. I think we're finished with gymnastic exercises now. We're ready to go on and do some related distances. What I want you to think about in this exercise is that these two fences are related to each other in that there are a set number of strides between the two fences. I've set the jumps at 20 yards apart. So if you think about 4 non-jumping strides between the fences, i.e. that there are 4 canter strides between the fences. But before we put them together, I want you to both go off onto a left circle and jump just the upright fence in canter on a left circle, jumping towards the far end of the school. Okay? The object of the whole exercise is to make the rider more aware of what's happening when the horse is jumping, the length of stride that the horse is jumping out of, so that the rider is much more aware of where they're going and how they're riding a course. Good. A little more open left rein if you feel the need to keep the bend. Okay, a little bit jumping across the fence, Charlotte. That's why he didn't stay on the correct leg. Okay, Daniel, just walk. And Charlotte, once more. Open left rein, Charlotte, so that you lead the horse round and keep the right rein against the neck. Yeah, but you're just slowing down. You're thinking too much about what leg is going to land on, and you're forgetting to ride the fence. To keep the rhythm the same, think about where you're going, but don't fall in on your circle. Yeah, you're throwing your weight across, Charlotte. You mustn't do that because you're actually unbalancing the horse. Keep your right rein, your outside rein against the neck. Keep your right leg on and open your left rein. Good, good. Well done. Make much of him. Tell him he's good. Sometimes when we make the attempt to get them to land on the correct leg, we throw our weight across and we actually counterbalance the horse, so it has to go land on the wrong leg. Okay? If you both get into right circle now and jump the parallel on a right circle. Lovely, Daniel. Just pass her and walk. Don't do that again. That was very nice. You just do that once more, Charlotte. Your turn onto the jump wasn't particularly good. He was falling out on the circle. Look, keep your eye on the jump and ride the turn rather than hold off it. That was better. Good. Okay, make much of him. Right, just walk a minute. Now I want both of you to put these two fences together, jumping the parallel before the upright in a straight line. Just think of it as though you were jumping in a competition. There's 4 strides between the two fences. Keep the nice, even rhythm and keep them working through. Okay, off you go. Keep the back end working underneath her. That was better, good. Just walk a minute, okay, Charlotte? Okay. What I want you to both think about now, so that you've got to think about your approach, is that you're going to put 5 strides in between the 2 fences. So you're going to think about how you're going to influence the horse's approach, how it's going to jump the first fence, so that it lands and can put in 5 strides. I want you to think about a slightly more shorter, more collected canter, so that the horse gets in a bit closer to the parallel and is able to pop. When it lands, you just sit up and hold for 5 strides rather than let it flow for 4. But it's the approach that's the all-important thing. When you're ready, in the left rein. Be a bit more positive, that's it. And then think about the approach. Yeah, how many was that? Yeah. Okay, so you're thinking 5. But because I said a bit more positive, so that the horse was working, you actually came too fast. Good, Charlotte. Okay, walk a minute, Charlotte. Daniel, once more. Okay, good. Pat her, tell her she's good. She was actually very good to listen to you because you still came in a little bit bold and onward bound at the first fence. The jump was a little fast and flat through there, and so she had to make a big effort to come back to you in the middle. But she was very good to make that adjustment. The interesting point is that the different length of stride of the 2 horses, and that Charlotte finds it quite easy to put 5 in, whereas your horse finds it quite difficult because of the long stride. So she has to make much more of a conscious effort. I want you both on the right rein now, so that you're doing the upright to parallel, and put 4 strides in going that way. It's good to keep thinking about changing from 4 to 5 and 5 to 4, so that you're always thinking about how the horse is going and how you're riding a line of fences. Okay. A little bit quick yourself through there over the parallel, but it was nice in between. Okay, good. And both of you now on 5 strides, and it should, if anything, be easier to put 5 in this way because you don't have to be quite so strong to jump in upright. You can keep them a little bit more collected. Much easier for them to pop in upright than it is to pop over a parallel. Okay. I think still a little bit far off the upright, Daniel. Making her stand off a bit, which means that they've got to jump in a bit further than you would like. And once that's happened, it's very difficult to get them back to you. So if you think about getting much closer to the upright, how many was that, Charlotte? Do you not know? How many strides was that? Yeah, how many were you meant to be doing? 5. Okay, both of you again. Now think about the approach. Both of you are firing the horses. Just to keep them in a nice rhythm. If you see a long stride, ignore it. And just keep them together. Keep her together. Keep her together. Yeah, and sit up and hold. Yeah, lovely. Pat her. Tell her she's good. Okay, she had to make an effort, but she was listening. That's the important thing. Steady, Charlotte. Okay. Because of the short stride, you got away with that. In fact, you were still far too fast and flat over this fence. But because of the short stride that he's got, he was actually able to shorten in there and get the 5 quite easily. But the whole object of the exercise is that you start to become aware of what you're doing. And when you're in a competition, you've got to have to think about how you ride 2 fences in a straight line, how you ride a turn, how you approach your fences, and how each fence is going to influence the rest of the course that you jump. Okay, I think we're ready to go on and jump perhaps a course of jumps outside. Whatever the standard of the horse, the working in process is exactly the same. Glen Burnie, although at international level, would do exactly the same working in as the novices. The main aim is to get them to relax, supple, soft, attentive, and working through the whole body from the back end. They're off. Making sure that they work in on both reins, that they're supple in both directions, and that they're listening to the rider's aids. Good. And Tarot. And as he feels relaxed, I'm quite happy to start working in, getting him ready for the round of show jumps we're going to do. Good boy. If you make it a straight pole, please, Charlotte. Always starting with the jumps small, keeping the horses confident, building up gradually to the height that they would probably be jumping when they go into the ring. Good boy. And then up another 3 holes, please. Can you make sure that the grand pole is in front of the angled drop rail, please? For a horse of this ability, the jumps that we're working over to begin with are obviously far too small, but at least he knows he can do them and everything's very easy. And as the jumps get higher, he begins to enjoy himself more. Boy. Good boy. Yeah. When working in for a competition, I always work in over an upright first, just to make sure the horses are listening, and then go on to a spread fence to get them to open their jump and start to stretch, get them working through. Good. If you make it a square parallel now, please. Okay? That's fine. Good boy. Good. If you make it a bit higher and a bit wider, please. He's still finding life very easy and perhaps not really that interested because the jumps aren't quite big enough for him. But it's a good sign that he's staying calm and relaxed. If you just put one of the front poles as a drop rail, please. And we'll leave the back rail higher, just to get him to get the back legs up in the air a bit more. Good boy. And having made the back pole a bit higher, he then made a slightly bigger effort. Again, raise the front pole to make it square. Good. Good boy. Good. And being happy with the way he's jumping, I would then go and jump one upright just to make sure he's attentive, he's obedient, before we go in to jump a round of jumps. Good boy. He would now be ready to go and compete and hopefully jump a clear round. Walking the show jumping course is every bit as important as actually riding it. When you've got time, make sure you go out there and walk it properly. There's no point in going out chatting to your friends and leaning over the fences. Go out there and look at the course properly. Walk every turn, walk all your lines, and if time permits, walk the course 2 or 3 times. Let's start walking this course. Turning to the first fence, it's always important that you get a nice jump at the first fence because it's going to dictate the rest of your round. Make sure you've got lots of room on the approach, you know exactly where you're going. And probably the most important thing is don't go before the bell and know your course before you start. So we've got an ascending parallel to start with, which is quite a nice kind fence, probably the normal type of fence to start a course. And already we have what looks like a related distance to the second fence. So what I do when I'm walking a course is I take 2 steps, taking up the room for landing, and then count your strides to the next fence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, and then you're ready for takeoff. And in fact, you're quite close to this fence for takeoff, so after jumping the first fence, it's a case of sitting up, holding for this upright. Again, not terribly big, but already you want to be thinking about, on the approach to this fence, you're thinking about your turn. We're going off right-handed after this fence, so we're well prepared. We give the horse lots of time to think about it. Make use of your arena. There's no point in cutting corners. It's not against the clock. Take lots of time and make sure you give the horse as much time as possible to see the next fence. So we go well into the corner here as we're turning across the arena to an upright. Problems here could be that the horse would get its eye fixed on this gate on our left. So make sure you're telling the horse exactly where you want it to go. Again, not a very big fence, probably a little bit flimsy, not a lot of fillers, so you want to be sure that they're concentrating and listening. And then we have what looks like a dog leg to this triple bar, the next fence. So make sure when you've got a dog leg line between 2 fences that you've given yourself enough room on the straight to jump the next fence. So we can think already of getting our eye fixed on the right-hand box, flower box here, so that we've come straight from the fence we've just jumped, and then we've got a nice turn to get straight in time to let the horse see the triple bar. Triple bar is probably one of the easiest kind of fences, as it's a spread and it's an ascending upright fence. The worst thing you can possibly do here is to have a standoff and see a long stride. Get them in close so that they've got room to stretch and spread and they can get up enough height. Then we've got another turn before the combination. So again, take lots of time and lots of room. Give the horse a chance to see where it's going. When riding the course, it's important to keep your eye on the next fence. So when you're walking it, do exactly the same so that you know where you're going to turn to get in line with the fence. This is in fact quite a tight turn to what looks like quite a difficult combination. So take lots of room, get right to the fence line so that the horse has got as much possible time to see this line before it gets there. It's very bright, very spooky, 3 quite big fences in quick succession. When you're walking your line between fences of a combination, don't walk at the side of the jump, get right in the middle. That's where you're planning to jump it, in the middle, to make sure you're there when you're walking it. Again, 2 steps for landing. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the non-jumping stride, and then 2 for takeoff. Because we've just come in quite strongly over a parallel, this fence will be quite close, appear to come up to us quite quickly. So it's a case of jump the parallel, sit up and hold for the upright. Again, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. Again, this will be quite short, but as you've got to the upright fairly quickly, they won't jump in too far to this, so it should be a nice ride out through. Again, walk from the middle of the fence to the middle of that you've just jumped to the middle of the next fence, keeping your eye where you're going. Another quite tight turn coming up, so go right to the top of the arena, give yourself lots of room for what looks like another related distance to a double. Another very obvious point turning into the fence is that the sun is straight ahead of us, so it's even more important that the horse has got the time to see what's going on and what the fence is. Another obvious point about the gate is, as opposed to the poles being on round cups, the gate sits on quite flat cups. And there's every chance that the horse before you has knocked the gate and it's sitting on the edge of the cups. So when riding round before you start your course, just have a quick look at the gate. It's a very good point, and it's silly to have 5 penalties because someone else has hit it before you. Again, another related distance to the double ahead of us. So the usual 1, 2 for landing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. So again, another nice 3 strides, just sitting up holding to jump in over the upright into the double. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Again, be in the middle. Should be a nice 1 stride and a good jump over the last fence. And your course is finished. Make sure you look for the finish flags. Don't miss them. It would be silly to be eliminated at this stage. Now we've finished walking the course, let's have a go at riding it. As we discussed when walking the course, give yourself time, don't be in a hurry, have a look at the gate, as we said, make sure it's still okay. Let the horse settle down, and then get yourself round. Lots of room, lots of time to see the first fence. Remember, in a competition, to wait for the whistle to go. Keeping your eye on the first fence, take up lots of room. Jump in the middle. Good boy. Again, using up the arena, well into the corner, keep your eye on the upright. Let the horse know what it's going to jump. Good boy. Get straight for the triple bar. Good boy. little bit enthusiastic. Keep concentrating on this difficult turn to the combination. Keep the horse's attention and be in the middle. Good boy. Lovely. Then use up your arena. Keep your eye on the gate. Remember the sun we were talking about. 3 nice strides. Upright. Through the parallel and finish. Good boy. Very good boy. Well done. Clever chap. And now I'm back at Hooker Hall Horse Trials.
Mr. Ian Stark now with the Edinburgh Woolen Mills Murphy himself, number 72, and the lowest dressage points, I think, of the event, 26.
Murphy's a big, careful jumping horse, so the fences themselves are not a problem, but the length of his stride is where the difficulty comes in. And there, in a related distance before the double, he put in 4 strides. He may have put in 5, but because of his length of stride, we had to go for the 4. He always maintains a good rhythm and jumps out of that rhythm and stays round before the fence and through the air. Just correcting his legs there, he's lost concentration at the next jump and didn't quite jump it correctly. He slightly dived over it, but quickly got back into his rhythm and makes a nice jump over the parallel. The final combination, which is the next fence, was a bit of a problem from his point of view in that it was very short from the second element to the third. So in trying to correct him, I got slightly left behind over the middle element, but he makes a good jump again over the last part.
Well, I'm sure everybody congratulates Ian there on that clear round, because he's obviously in a very prime position there with a 26 total penalty points going forward to the cross country. That's Murphy himself.
And the winner of the Caldine Advanced section goes to number 72, the man himself, Ian Stark, with the Edinburgh Woolen Mills Murphy himself on a score of 41. The winner and second at badminton this year, Ian Stark, with the Edinburgh Woolen Mills Sawati with a score of 45.
Whether you ride at pony club or international level, to achieve the best results requires practice, dedication, and hard work. There's no magic formula, but the main thing is that you enjoy what you're doing.